In this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about using JSON in your AI automations. Now, I know this topic feels scary to quite a lot of people, and to be fair, it felt scary to me too when I first entered the AI space. However, I'm going to prove that it's much easier than you think, and it's super important to understand. If you're new here, my name is Giovanni. I'm a former senior manager in big tech, and over the past 5 months, I've helped more than 50 businesses with AI automation and generated more than $50,000 for my own AI agency. With that aside, let's get into the video. Let's start describing what means JSON and what this is. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and you can think about it as a way to store and share information. JSON, when you look at it, it looks like simple text. However, it's structured text, meaning that you will notice later in the slides that there is a certain hierarchy that we want to respect in order for the computer to understand this type of language. And if it's easier to understand, think about JSON as the English for computer. It's simply the way in which two computers can share information and then communicate one another. Why is this important? Because everything that we do on the back end is JSON. So APIs, databases, and even our platforms. And here I just want to make a quick note, which is in n8n, it's maybe one of the platforms where you see JSON used more often because you also can see it and you can play around with it because it's a low-code platform. However, also Zapier and Make, when you drag and drop your little boxes, those are JSON that's being simply drag and dropped in your screen. So everything behind the scene is JSON. What is the structure of a JSON? The basic structure is, and in the next slide we're going to see it in detail, that a piece of text is always described by a key and a value. And this is called key-value pairs. You will notice that keys are always in quotes, and therefore they are strings. Values, on the other side, they can have different types. And let's go straight in an example. Values can be strings, and you see Giovanni, so my name, numbers, so 47, Boolean, which means either a true or a false value, null, which basically means it's just returning no data, object, you can have a so-called nested JSON, which means a JSON inside another JSON, and they are inside curly brackets, and arrays, which is list of values, and now we're going to see everything in detail. Let's start immediately from defining our keys and our values. So what I am presenting you right now, it's a series of key and value pairs that represent different information that one computer can send to another. The yellows are the keys, and as mentioned before, these are strings, and they are always inside quotes. The values is the orange, and in the first row that we have, the value is Giovanni, and by definition, Giovanni being a name is a string. The second row has a key, which is age, but the value in this case, it's 27. So this is a number. And you notice this because the number has a different color than the string. And this is also what you will see later inside n8n, because once we start seeing that the colors are changing, that's the first signal that the data type is different. The third row, again, we have that the key is student, but the value is false because I'm not studying anymore, right? And this is a Boolean. When we move into array, we have things inside a list. Let's think about it this way. Let's imagine that you are going to do the groceries. When you do the groceries is one thing, but inside this one thing, there are many other objects, right? In this case, items. And you can have your tomatoes, your potatoes, I don't know, the salad, I love the coffee because I'm Italian, and so on. The same way that we think about groceries, we think about lists inside the JSON format. In this example, my skill set is the array, and everything inside the array is of the same type. And in this example, I have automation, I have n8n, and I have AI. Just recalling what we just described, these are 3 nouns or words, and because we see that they are in quotation, we know that by definition, these are 3 strings. So what you see right now, it's an array with 3 items inside, and the items are strings. Moving on to JSON, we can have a JSON inside another JSON. And how do you see this? You can see this because you will notice that here you have an object, which we have mentioned being defined by curly brackets. And inside this object, we have also, and actually let me use a different color, we have also another object that describes other things. In this example, we have that the first row is a key value pair where the key is name and the value is Giovanni, a string. Then we have contacts, which is a key, and the value is an object, which is the purple one. Inside the object, we have 2 other key value pairs. The first one being a string because it's an email. And the second one, it's again another string, even though I am representing the phone number because I have the quotations. Be mindful that inside the object, unlike the string, you can have different things. So if I had here also my age, I would have a third row right here being the age, we would have it between quotation mark. And here we would have the double dot. And then right here, we would have a number. That would mean that the value in this specific example would be a number. So we can have different data types inside the same JSON. Now, why did we go through all of this? Because we mentioned that JSON is the foundational language, let's call it like this, in which computers are communicating one another. And how does that happen? It happens through APIs. I will now not stay a lot on the concept, but take away that APIs, it's a way in which 2 computers can communicate or in which you can ask a server or a third-party service to do something for you by sending a request. Basically, imagine it as if you are a computer and you want to access, I don't know, the newest model of Google Gemini, and you're simply telling your computer to tell the Google Gemini server, hey, please give me access to your model. I need to produce a picture, okay? This is what you do in the curl. So you're just sending a request, and what you get back after you send the curl is what you call response, which is basically this piece of text. And as you can clearly see, this piece of text is again a JSON, because we know that we have an object, because every JSON is inside a big object described by the parentheses, so the curly brackets right here. And inside this object, we have some key value pairs. We notice that the first one is a number, then we have a string because it's in quotation, then we have another string because it's quotation, then we have a Boolean because it's true or false, and we have an array with, 2 strings in this case, where it says, okay, what is the role of Giovanni in this specific community? It's either a creator, either a founder, right? So this is basically the way that we sent a request to a server, and then the server told me everything it knew about who Giovanni is. Let's now go and see in practice inside n8n how we can display this information so that once you finish this, you have everything you know in order to read JSON in the best possible way. Great, we are now inside n8n, and I'm going to add a manual trigger, and the node that I'm going to use in order to play around and show you how it works is a set node. And I want to be clear, the set node is super important because it's the foundational node that we use when we want to manipulate the data. And what does it mean? It means that it allows us to insert, remove, modify, or change a bit the shape of the data that are going through your workflow. Let's make now the example. I'm gonna press here and I'm gonna say that the first thing that I wanna see is what is my name. And my name in here, it's Giovanni. And if I press execute, I see that right here, I'm gonna zoom in real quick. I have an object, and inside this object, there is a key value pair, name and Giovanni. And Giovanni is a string because you see that you have the quotations. I am now going to insert another field. Let's make another field. So age. This time I don't want a string, I want a number. What's my age? I am 29, and execute step. And as you can see, again, the number has a different color versus the string. And that's why it's in green. Let's make now a further example. We want a Boolean, and I will call is Giovanni a student? I'm gonna go to Boolean, and it's false pre-populated. And as you can see, again, bam, we have right here that student and false. So this is a Boolean. We can then create an array. And so we go skills. We know that we want array. And right here, let me zoom in for you. We want to go the square bracket, open and close, because we mentioned that arrays are lists, right? And then I want to start inserting few items that we know. In this case, I want to recreate what I had before. So it's 3 strings. And inside the strings, I'm going to say automation, then AI, and n8n. Execute. And as you can see right here, now I have a string that I can, collapse and expand. And here you will see that I have automation, AI, and n8n. And you see that in here, they are all strings. Now, if I were to add an object, the things that I can do, I don't know, let's call it second dude, would be I can, identify that my object right here is defined by these 2 things. So out of simplicity, I would simply go right here and copy all of this, because anyway, it's an object, right? I would copy it right here. I would change from string to object. And now if I were to execute the workflow once again, I would see that I added again a second dude that I can collapse. And that's exactly with the same information, because I just copy pasted from the object above, but this is how I created. Last tip is that in the schema, you are able, in case you are confused on what you're seeing, to distinguish text, strings, and everything by the letters that you have in front, which is basically the same one that you will find right here, right? So you know that Giovanni is a text, so a string, then a number, then a Boolean, then a list, so array, and then an object. To conclude, let's just summarize with 5 golden rules what you need to remember in order to stop making mistakes with JSON and in order to further clarify the concept that we just saw. The first rule is that key must be in quotation. So in this example, we're talking about name, so the first part, and it's always a string, so must be in quotation. Number 2, you have different data types: strings, numbers, Boolean, null, object, and arrays. And we saw what each of these represent. Number 3, every key value pair is separated from the next one with a comma. And that's what we saw continuously when we were pressing execute, that even n8n was adding a comma. Number 4, the last element of the object, so the curly brackets, does not have a comma. And lastly, everything when you talk about object is wrapped into curly brackets. All right, so now I really hope you have a tiny bit more understanding about what JSON is and how you can use it and read it. And once again, when I joined the space, initially I was freaking out because when I saw this, I was like, okay, I just joined the space because there is no code. Why am I learning how to code? And the reality is that learning this, it means starting really from the fundamentals. And to give you an example is, let's imagine that you have a great ChatGPT automation that helps you write the perfect content, right, for your LinkedIn posts. I don't know. It can be the best GPT in the world. However, if you don't have those foundations in order to understand if the proposal of the GPT actually makes sense or not, it will make you struggle eventually, because eventually it will run into bugs, into issues, it will give you a wrong posts and so on, right? So this is exactly the reason why also with automation, we start from the fundamentals. And I also started from the fundamentals of what is an API, what is a JSON, how do the two relate to one another. Because if you have these clear, then you have everything that you need in order to truly build automation that, first of all, makes sense and work, and second, that actually brings revenue to businesses, because that is our end goal. With that being said, I truly hope you found value in the video, and I'll see you in the next one.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.